Hey dancers, Jess here. Today I want to chat or sort of respond to some criticism that I've received for a blog post that I wrote not too long ago. The topic of the post was sort of an open letter to companies and schools to stop weighing your dancers. And I'll preface this by saying, responding to criticism, it's sort of the kind of thing that I knew in writing that piece there would be mixed responses. The overwhelming majority of people had positive responses to it and saw, what I was trying to get at and really understood my point of view, and I think appreciated that somebody said it. And, I got comments like that, like, thank you for saying this, thank you for sharing this. And it was shared a lot, and I'm very happy and grateful for that it got around quite as much as it did. But some of the criticism I just find interesting and felt like I might as well respond just so that everyone knows where I'm coming from and we're on the same page, and because I do think it's a topic that deserves attention. So giving it a little extra attention by chatting about it in this video, I figured would be just fine. So one of the first negative comments, and I kind of have to assume that this person maybe didn't read the post, but she was speaking about how, the school where her child was going found out or discovered an eating disorder because of weigh-ins. I think that's great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I would say if that's the case and they are weighing their younger dancers to ensure that they're not dropping weight drastically or losing too much weight and, they're eating enough and all of that, wonderful. Put them on the scale backwards so that they don't have to see the number, so it's monitored by a nurse. And I wouldn't say anything to the student about the number. If they're under 18, obviously, if there's an issue with weight loss, you're going to bring that to the parent's attention anyway. So you don't have to really say anything to the child about it. My point in that post was that dancers should be allowed to be at a healthy weight. I also didn't say dancers should be overweight. So a healthy weight is different for everyone. That's another thing, another reason why you shouldn't have weigh-ins, because two dancers who are 5'5" could be 10 or 15 pounds apart, aesthetically have similar appearances, and both be at healthy weights for the height. And I think that is worth considering. And I think that a lot of times when companies weigh dancers and say, I want you to lose X number of pounds, it's based on some height weight chart, or it's based on, just some number that they're pulling out of the air. Whereas, aesthetics don't have so much to do with a number on the scale. One of the points that I made in this blog post was about the responsibility of men in lifting female dancers. And I stand by that. There were men, obviously, who took issue with the fact that I said, maybe men should be stronger and it shouldn't require dancers to be significantly underweight in order for them to be lifted. Once again, I never said that I think that dancers should be overweight and that male dancers should be expected to lift someone who is heavier than is healthy for her, or is heavier than what would be healthy for him to lift. However, it is partly responsibility of men to be strong, knowing that lifting women in dance is part of your job. So if men are not doing the proper training and cross-training outside of the studio in order to be strong enough to lift ballerinas of varying weights, then I think that they have a little bit more work to do. I think that a lot of times in creating a partnership, it shouldn't just be about height. Because if it's just about height, once again, you're going to say these two female dancers who are the same height should be able to partner with the same man, even if they weigh 15 pounds different. However, if you have men of different builds and different levels of strength, then you can pair them up accordingly. It doesn't feel as complicated to me or as crazy as some people thought that it was. But I'm open to feedback. on this, and I understand that it is a heated topic for a number of reasons. I think the biggest thing that frustrates and upsets me, and which was my motivation for writing this piece, is that the mental harm that is done to females by requiring them to step on a scale every week, it's huge, and it's lasting, and it's the kind of damage that can be impactful long term. It's the kind of damage that can change the way a woman, or man for that matter, reacts to it creates long-term damage with your relationship with food, which sounds silly, but a positive relationship with food has a very huge impact on your life, and a negative impact or a negative relationship has a huge negative impact. It's an emotional thing. It is exhausting mentally. And I think that is my biggest point, is that the damage that is done with weigh-ins is huge. In addition to that, I think that if you have changes you would like to see in a dancer physically, okay, you need to point them in the direction of the tools that are going to help get them there. People who say, just eat less, have either no knowledge of current food and nutrition science, which is likely, most people don't, or have never had an issue with food or weight themselves. Because if you've ever had an issue with food or weight, you understand that there's a lot more that goes into it than just eat less. Another piece of criticism, as somebody pointed out, was, or someone in reference to the article or response to it, someone said, boxers and wrestlers have to meet weight. All of these, there are other jockeys have to meet weight. There are other professions who have to meet weight. Dancers are just one of those that also have to meet weight. Well, unfortunately, the biggest hole in that argument is that jockeys and wrestlers and all these other people who also have to make weight also have a high incidence of disordered eating. So anytime that you're forcing someone to step on a scale and be at a certain number, you're likely, in a vast majority of people, going to have a big impact on the way that they are relating to and approaching food. I found it interesting that the majority of criticism did come from men. And I would have to say, if you've never been a woman in ballet, you don't understand what that world looks like. And is some of it absolutely lovely and enjoyable and a thrill to be a part of? Absolutely. I totally am grateful for all of the time that I spent dancing. But is some of it potentially very damaging, especially in the areas of, mental health and food and diet culture and all of that? And with food, it's not just your mental health, but it is also your physical health. So there's a lot to consider in that area and a lot to really think about in the way that we approach it. I think that in addition to the way it's approached, my biggest thing is the resources. And there are, this is what I work with dancers on, and there are other people who do it now as well, because likely they have had a similar struggle or they have seen dancers struggle, and they know that it's only when you give them the tools and the support to get to what their personal best can be that they'll actually get there. So if we're not providing that information to them, and I always say this too, one seminar or one workshop in a summer intensive is not enough. We hear the same stuff. When dancers go to those workshops, they're exhausted and they've been dancing all day. So who knows how much they're actually taking in or retaining or taking to heart. And if you bring in someone who doesn't have experience in dance to be your nutrition talk person, the weight or value that dancers are going to give to their information is significantly lessened, because dancers want to hear from other dancers who understand the pressure and understand the requirements of the art and who are going to give them the information that is pertinent to achieving those goals. So if you set your dancers up with someone, you also have to set them up with somebody who has that experience and knows what's required and understands that, you know, the goals might be slightly different than of just a normal person out on the street. So I'm going to link to the article below if you didn't read it yet. I am open to feedback and continued discussion on this. I hope that I was clear in my points, and I want to thank you once more for tuning in. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the Whole Dancer YouTube channel, where I'll be providing videos on nutrition, mindset, health, and all of those missing pieces for dancers in order to help support you in reaching your peak and your personal best body and dancing. I'll catch you next time.